Ashley with Sisters Unfiltered. We are so excited to be back at the kitchen table.
Yeah, the kitchen table slash counter. But it is our only table. We don't have another kitchen table in the kitchen.
So we're just glad to be back in the kitchen, talking today, kind of continuing a conversation that we've had from a couple episodes before. It'll be really fun. But, you know, Lindsey and I this week have been getting ready because our kids are about to be on spring break.
Yeah.
And so what are you guys doing for spring break? What have you been doing?
So we are going to Hawaii.
Dream trip.
Bucket
list.
Yeah, definitely bucket list trip for us. Something that I've wanted to do forever. I don't know who it was. There was a family that took their kids when we were younger, and I think it might have been, I feel like it might have been the Archers, maybe. Anyways, there was a family that took their kids when like years ago, and they said it was the best trip, or maybe I just interpreted it as the best trip on social media.
Yeah.
And I told Derek I wanted to take our kids, and he said we would go before Parker graduates, but Abby Kate had to be old enough to remember it because Hawaii is not cheap. So
that's like a small sliver of time.
What?
Where
yes, it is.
Before Parker graduates.
And Abby Kate's old enough.
Yeah.
It is, because Abby Kate's still 11. She's about to be 12, and Parker's graduating in May. So yes, I'm so excited.
Yeah, you guys are going to be gone really longer than what spring break is, just because.
Yeah, we're going to be gone 10 days, and longest we've ever taken our kids anywhere besides the beach, actually. And what's cool, you know how some people do like these like surprise trips for their kids, like they're like, get in the car, we're going to Disney.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Except for, to me, what I really enjoy is looking forward.
Yeah.
And
that's
so
a big thing for you.
It is a big thing.
You always like to have things you're looking forward to.
I like to have things we're looking forward to. So our kids have known about this trip for years, and then like that we were going to do it eventually. And then Derek booked our hotels a year ago. So we have known this whole last year that we were going to Hawaii for spring break.
Yeah. So you've just been preparing for that this week, like making sure you guys have all your things,
yes.
the packing list. Do you pack for your kids?
No. I don't pack for my kids, but I do a list for them. And it's funny because I do, for the girls, I make them show me what they have.
Yeah.
And I go through it because I want to make sure that it's like, you know.
Or that they have
I've made the mistake of not, and that's backfired. Not just the girls, but the boys.
Yeah.
And that's backfired on me.
Yeah.
And so I definitely make sure I know what they're taking. And then I'm trying to get creative with some things. We're a family of 7, right? So like going somewhere like Hawaii, which everyone has said is so expensive to go to.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to like be, I don't know, paying for all kinds of things if you don't have to. So I'm like bringing some like granola bars and some things in my suitcase, which we can go to the grocery store there. But again, I have a feeling it's probably more expensive to even buy that stuff there, which is fine.
Yeah. I think everything in Hawaii is
more expensive. Yeah. So I'm bringing some snacks and some granola bars and maybe some bagels. And so trying not to eat out for every meal because we are not doing Airbnb. And I have heard both ways are great, Airbnb or a hotel. So we're doing hotel. We're renting a car and all that. But I ordered our own snorkeling gear.
Yeah.
Not flippers. I'm not bringing flippers, but I did that so that we're not paying for. We might still. We're doing some excursions, not a lot, but we have one we haven't planned yet, and we might still pay to go out and snorkel. But I googled it, and there's like so many cool places you can just snorkel like right off the beach.
Yeah.
And so I thought, why not bring our own snorkeling gear? We get off Amazon for not much, and we can bring it in a suitcase, and then we can just either leave it if it ends up being not great snorkeling gear.
Yeah.
But we can have it, and then we can just like snorkel at any time. So super excited.
That's
what do y'all do?
We are going to the beach. We're going to go with Dad and his wife, and then my brother and his family. So they'll be there like half the week. We're going to be there the whole week. So we go to Florida, and it's our families. All of us are one of our favorite places. Our kids just are so comfortable there that we've taken them since they were really tiny, and it's just a happy place, you know. So it's a little cold because it's like North Florida, so it's a little cold at spring break. But honestly, I'm really excited about just getting away, and you know, it's weird because we have kids in college, and so Blake is in college, and his spring break is this week.
Yeah.
We go next week. So it's just interesting. Spring break is a little bit different as your kids get older and depending on their life. Tyler's an adult. He doesn't get a spring break. Sam and Eden are doing a mission trip for their spring break with the church. They're leading that with another couple. And then, so it's just like Grayson and Ella and
It's
Jeremy
like the
and I.
smallest family trip you've ever
I
been
know,
on.
I think it is. I think
Besides
it is.
if you and Jeremy go somewhere.
But
which
it
is
also
crazy.
seems a little bit like easy, you know, because I'm like you. I pretty much since my kids were little, I just make a list for them. I have them packed. For a long time, I would check it. I don't check the boys anymore because they're, you know,
I
17
don't
and
check
up.
the boys either.
But
Unless there's
Ella's,
something specific
yes,
that I need.
yeah. I still check Ella's to make sure she got all the things on the list. Just make sure her outfits match and things like that. And I pack for myself, and then Jeremy, my husband, packs for himself.
Yeah.
I don't pack for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love where we go to the beach with Ashley and Jeremy. It doesn't matter if it's cold.
Yeah.
It's
Still so relaxing.
I don't know if it really is, or is it just us? I think it really is. People feel this way.
I
that
think it's because we've been so many times that it's comfortable. So
Yeah.
it's like we're not rushing to see everything.
Yeah.
We've already seen it all, done it all. So it's just almost like probably how people feel with a second home. Like it's like
It's just the most relaxing.
Yeah.
Like you sit on the front porch and you drink coffee.
Yeah.
And it's like beautiful, even if it's chilly. It's so nice. You go on walks and runs in the morning.
Yeah.
It's even spring break. It's the coldest week that we normally go there.
Yeah.
But it's still nice enough where you can go sit on the beach.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, we would be doing that if it wasn't. We planned this trip a year ago because we knew that we were going to go at some point before Parker graduated. But I love going there.
Yeah. And
I
we'll
think
all
it's
be
amazing.
back again.
Yeah.
At the end of
we're
May.
all going back in June. So
first week of June.
yeah.
So it'll be so fun. But
it
yeah,
is.
I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to hear about Hawaii and how awesome it is.
Yeah. And we didn't grow up traveling for spring break.
No, not really. I mean, I remember
I
very
never,
few times we
I
went
never.
away for spring break.
And to be honest, we didn't travel with our kids for spring break until our dad got a house at the beach. And then when that happened
That's
is when we
true.
started. I mean, maybe here and there, but
Honestly,
not really.
we did a lot of Austin staycations
Yeah,
for spring break.
yeah. I mean, Derek works normally for
Yeah,
spring break. Like
exactly.
my
That's
husband,
why.
I mean, we
Yeah.
own a business, so it's not like he's had the ability to just take off.
Yeah.
But it's funny because where we live in an affluent area, and a lot of people travel here
Yeah.
for every break.
Yeah.
For which we just had a break in February,
Oh,
and
yeah, like a month ago.
and like everyone
A
travels.
5-day weekend.
Yeah, it's
Everyone travels.
it is crazy, and so people travel for that. They travel for spring break. They travel for summer.
It's awesome. It's
And
so fun.
it's so fun, but for someone who hasn't had that ability,
yeah.
able to do that all the time, sometimes you can feel a little like, wah, wah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's not
You're
a lot
like-
of traffic though if you stay here.
No, there's
and
not.
You can go do some fun
And-
things around Austin. Austin's such an outdoorsy place. Like
Yeah.
you can take your kids and do stuff.
And here's a little secret sauce. Austin's usually warmer than anywhere else.
It really is.
So this time of year is beautiful in
It
Austin.
is.
And I looked at the 10-day weather here.
It's
Me
amazing.
and the girl who does my nails, we were like, it's gonna be gorgeous here.
Yeah.
Like it's like in the lows are in the mid 50s
Yeah.
to 60. The highs are in the like upper 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
It
It'll
is
be
perfect.
warmer here than at the beach.
Yeah.
For sure.
It will be. So anyone who's staying in Austin for spring break, it will be amazing.
Yeah.
Because it's beautiful here
It
this
is.
time of year. So
Yeah. But are your kids ready? Are they excited about spring break?
Oh
I mean,
my
are just more
gosh.
excited because you guys are going to Hawaii.
yes, they're very excited. So I did have to break it to them that we are doing an 8-hour hike. And
I would love that. We did a hike in Jackson Hole, Wyoming a couple years ago, and literally, my kids are big. Okay, they're not little anymore. They were acting like toddlers. Like I mean, whining
glad to hear
and
that.
complaining, and I was like, "Are you kidding me right now?" Like
I don't-
they literally
yeah.
did not. So it's good that you're warning.
No,
and
we're-
we did. And to be fair, we didn't know how long this hike was going to be. It was much longer than we thought. And it wasn't that hard, but I mean, seriously, I was like, oh my gosh, we have so many bad attitudes on this little
yeah,
hike.
it really makes you want to scream. You know when you think that you're about to do something so amazing with your kids.
Oh, this has happened so many times.
It's happened so many times.
Yes.
And decorating the Christmas tree is one of them.
School supply shopping.
School supply shop for sure. Oh no. School supply
Yeah.
shopping, decorating the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
You know, you just are as a mom, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get my little kids to help me decorate Christmas tree. It's gonna be a memory. We're gonna have
Yes.
Christmas music playing, we're gonna have hot chocolate, and you always do this at way too young of an age.
Yeah.
I don't know why we think in our heads that at 2 years old they're gonna be able to decorate a Christmas tree, okay? They can't even do it at 8, to be
Yeah.
honest. And it ends up being a disaster. I become the mean mom because
Yeah.
I'm yelling and they're breaking ornaments, and it's like the tree looks terrible, which I get it. There's got to be some flexibility with that, but dear God. Okay, that's what this hike kind of feels like. However, I've been very clear.
Yeah.
I want to go to Hawaii and I want to hike. Some.
Yeah.
I'm not a hiker, okay?
Yeah.
But I love waterfalls. I love creeks. I love stuff like that. And so we are going on this hike, and Micah about made me lose my mind because he said a not very nice thing about it. And I was like, you know what? You can stay home.
Yeah.
You can stay home, Micah.
Yeah.
And so anyways, I decided to tell all of our other children by saying, Micah said something not very nice about it, so I'll go ahead and warn you that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you so that we are going to all enjoy this hike. And also, by the way, we're getting up at 5 a.m. to do it.
Yeah.
But I don't care. I am so excited. And I'm like, I said, we will have food, we will have our backpacks, we will have water, you'll have plenty of drinks. We're going to do this. And listen, I'm not going to tell them this. Thank goodness this podcast doesn't come out till later. If all else
Do they
fails,
listen to it?
no, they don't listen to it anyways.
Yeah.
If all else fails, we'll just turn around and go back. I mean, really, if it's just absolutely terrible.
I bet it's going to be great.
It's Hawaii. The
Yes.
views are going to be amazing. We're
Well,
going to a waterfall.
It doesn't matter. I mean, not the beach is the only place, exception to this rule for me. When we go somewhere, I want to experience the most, all of it from morning till night. Like, I don't even care if we chill. I don't care if we're exhausted when we come home. I'm like, we got to go and experience all of it. That kind of drives like half of my family crazy. Half of them are all the same. It's just funny how you have different personalities.
And I'm not, oh God, you and Wade, y'all are for sure like that. It's hilarious. Y'all are like, go to like 9 at night. I'm more of a like, let's go until about like 2, let's have a little break, and then let's go again. I do not want to waste it though. I'm with you on that. And I am like, and also it's not until later we're there for 10 days, so it's not till later.
I mean, if that's the only thing that's like 8 hours long, it's
that's
fine.
the only thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, guys, we're gonna do this. So anyways, 3 out of the 5 had really good attitudes, and even the other one didn't have a bad attitude. She just kept her mouth shut.
Yeah.
But like, and even Micah's attitude wasn't bad. It was just one little saying that kind of made me irritated, because we're paying, by the way, we're paying to go on this hike.
Yeah.
You have to pay to get in this park.
Yeah.
And it wasn't terrible. It wasn't disrespectful, but still, you just don't want to hear that when you're paying so much money to go on a trip.
But I do think it's good that you're warning them and already setting your expectations.
I am giving a warning. It's the only hike we're doing like that.
Yeah.
We might do something small, but like that's it.
Yeah.
So anyways, but we're
I know.
excited.
I find myself on trips, like when you have 5 kids, you have to set some things early, like, because it's so much time together, and you just have to be like, listen, I'm not going to hear you guys argue the whole time.
Yeah.
We're going to get along. I know we're going to all be in the car together for a long time, but we're going to have grace towards one another. We're going to be easy. I mean, these are the things I've said over and over and over again, especially when we're about to go on a trip.
Guess what I took a picture of today? By the way, this is the first time I've ever done this, but it just will show you what phase of life I'm in right now. I took a picture of the passage in the Bible, in Galatians, I think, the fruit of the Spirit.
Oh.
I literally took a picture of the fruits of the Spirit, guys, and I am sending it to my children. I haven't done it yet, but I talked to the girls about it this morning, and they started naming some of the fruits of the Spirit, and I said, yes, I want you girls, and Dad and I are going to be praying this too, that from now through this trip, that we are all going to have the fruits of the Spirit. Guys, I'm not trying to over-spiritualize things, because I know we can do that sometimes, but when I tell you I have 3 middle school daughters, I have 3 middle school daughters, okay? So we are going to have some grace and not like be slow to anger, and some patience and love. And I want us to have fun. And so I'm going to have to let go of some things too. But I'm going to send it to my family.
Hey, I say do whatever you can to make it a great trip. You're going to make great memories. It's going to be so fun.
Yeah.
You're going to look back on it and love every
And everybody just kind of has to let go of some stuff.
Sometimes it's more for you than them, though.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I really am going to try not to like be too zoned in on that. But I'm just a little quick little reminder, and I believe praying things can help.
Yeah, it can.
So anyways, we're excited.
It's a great transition into what we're talking about today.
Yes,
so,
that's true.
It really is. So we had talked about in a previous episode about, we talked about a couple episodes. One about before you're pregnant and your family, and before that baby comes, and just setting that foundation in your culture and your home. And then we've also talked about when that baby comes and kind of that toddler stage. We just shared some things. And just so y'all know, our listeners, like we go into this kind of, it's a little random, a little not. We have an outline, but we kind of just let it flow. We take ourselves back to those times in our life. Yeah. That season, Lindsey is still a little bit in this season that we're going to talk about. She's on the tail end of it. But we're kind of going to talk about that 5 to 12 years old. So they're going into elementary school. Kids are, more independent, you know. I always remember when Grayson turned 4, it's like we automatically turned this corner where, you know, we could get in the car by ourselves, buckle up by ourselves. We were all potty trained.
We can reason. You can
reason. You didn't have to take a diaper bag everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, it definitely, when my youngest was 4, and Ella came home after that. It's a little bit different situation with her being adopted and 3. But I just really remember that being the tide started to turn as far as your kids' independence. It's like easier to get out.
It's like a light bulb turns on.
Yeah.
That's how someone told me. Like 4 is when the light bulb just turns on.
Yeah.
And it was unbelievable how that happened with Parker.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. And 3, a lot of times are like terrible 3s or whatever, 3-nager, like I said before.
Yeah.
And then they turn a corner into 4 and they become this lovely child again.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, you know. Now I know that's a little bit before 5, so there's a lot of times at 5 they started kindergarten, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think there's some principles about that age that we can talk about that are universal, whether you're choosing public school or homeschool or whatever your schooling looks like, but in raising this age of kids.
For sure.
Really, it's such a time of foundation. So just yesterday, we were sitting around the dinner table, and on Sundays, I invite anybody that wants to come over, my grown children, and I have one daughter-in-law to come, and we're sitting around the table, and Sam was like, I know this, it just reminded me of this. He's like, I know that I'm only 19 years old, but there's been so many things lately. Now, he's married, in college, so he's growing up a little bit faster just because of that reason. But he's like, there's so many things that were foundational when I was younger that I'm thinking of now that are helping me in my like real life.
Oh, you love it.
You love that.
That's like full circle. You're like, oh my goodness, that is.
And I was thinking about this with this age group, 5 to 12. You know, I'll use working out as an example. You know, we started CrossFit when our kids were those ages. We started making them go, and he used the example too. He was like, we would cry, we would not want to go, we would complain, we would do all these things. And he's like, fast forward now at 19, like, I love working out. I'm a CrossFit coach. People ask me all the time, like, when did you start CrossFit? He's like, when I was like 8, you know? But he was like, do you remember? And then we started talking about all the stories of how the kids would just like fall apart, cry during a workout, you know, all this stuff. But now they're like, I'm so glad I did that. And we've talked about this before on the podcast, things about our no sleepover rule and how our kids are older now. I'm so glad they all made that rule. And it's not everything with parenting, but you are really laying a foundation during this time.
Yeah. And I do think that your kids, like even me, like my oldest is about to be 18, and him and his brother, our 16-year-old, they will tell us things that they see that we do that is different than their friends' parents that they love.
Yeah.
And it's foundational stuff. It's actually not just like, you know, lighthearted things. Yeah. It's like, well, why do their parents do that? Like, why do they not do like you guys do? And you're like, wow. Like, the point is there does come a time where they see what you have built from when they're little up until now.
Yes,
there is a point. It comes around.
Yeah.
Now, it's either going to come around in a positive way or it's going to come around in a negative way.
Yeah.
I think that it can go both ways, right? Like if we're not putting in the work now, is my point.
Yeah, and I think it was even cool because Eden was even sitting there, and Eden's parents are pastors, and she was like, I remember sitting at conferences that my parents were invited to, but they homeschooled, and so they would take the girls, and Eden's like, I remember taking notes. And they're talking about marriage. And she's like, I knew that it wasn't for me then, obviously, because I was little and young. And she's like, but now that I'm married, literally I can look back at like the exposure to that was so great and so foundational for my marriage now. And I was like, that's so cool.
It's
like
so
I think as
cool.
parents, sometimes you don't even realize what you're doing at that age group, 5 to 12 or whatever. And it really is foundational for the kids that the adults they become later on. Yeah. You know, and that they can kind of look back and see that. But I think something we kind of talked about, I don't know if we mentioned it on the last episode of talking about parenting, but, you know, 0 to 5, it's a lot of teaching, so taught. And then you go into 5 to 12, and there's a lot that's caught. Yeah. So what do you think that looks like?
I mean, I think that what happens is from 0 to 5, there's a lot of like, do this, but don't do that.
Yeah.
Right? Yes and no's.
Yeah.
Just hard yes and no's.
Like,
You're not
and
explaining.
we said that. We said it's
That's
a time
right.
for them to know that
No,
what you say.
You mean. Like, right? Like, and a lot of that is for safety reasons, and then it's building as they get older. There's reasons you set that from 0 to 5. But then from 5 to 12 is when you start rounding back to understanding why you are saying yes and no.
That's right.
So that's when you're catching it. They're catching it because it's not just that they're obeying, but they're catching the meaning and the reason why we are saying yes and no.
Yes.
And have already done that for a lot of years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that that's the difference between being taught and called.
Yeah. And this is a time, I think, where a lot of times they are morally knowing what to do. You know, the reason why morally, not just the no, don't do that, but why, or yes, do this, but why. Mm-hmm. You know, and this is when they can understand that a little bit more.
And they kind of start building, I don't want to say their own foundation necessarily, but that this is when you're saying, I'm going to say this, especially if your kids are going somewhere to school, actually not just school, if they're going anywhere around other peers, they're starting to learn how to make decisions without you being there.
Yeah.
So from 0 to 5, a lot of times your kids are with you a lot, right? And they're so young, so it's just the hard no, the hard yes.
Yeah.
And then it's like, or the easy yes, whatever you want to say. And then you're going from 5 to 12 when you're like kind of, you're not sending them out like you are when they're older, but this is when there's more time away from you, when they might have to make a good decision. Right?
They have a choice.
They have a choice
choices.
because you're not around. Like if they go to kindergarten, or if they're, you know, at an event for church, or in their kids, even just in kids' church, they're having to now learn and navigate some things on their own.
Yeah.
And that's when you're going alongside them, because they don't know that yet.
Yes.
They're not sure. So now we're walking alongside our kids.
Yes. And it's a little bit more like maybe when, you know, your kids are 5 and under, it's more like, you know, automatically they're sitting in timeout if they do something. Mm-hmm. But this is more consequences. So sometimes you're getting into those natural consequences. Sometimes they're delayed. Sometimes they're a little bit longer because they're understanding more when it comes to discipline. You know, I think consistency is also just as important as it was at 0 to 5 in this time too. Yeah. You know, because that whole call thing is also like, if my parents say one thing, but they do something different. They are understanding that. And they are seeing that.
That's true. That is true. So if we're threatening a lot, or we're saying things that we're going to do and we don't do it, or if we don't live by some things that we're teaching them to live by, they're not, okay, so if I tell my kids not to do something that I am doing, and I don't mean, guys, like, oh, you can't have a dessert but I can't. I don't mean stuff like that, but I mean like some moral things here. Eventually, they're going to catch what you're doing, not what you're saying.
And then you lose respect.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to model what you're doing. Yeah. So you got to remember, caught is not just what you're saying.
No, that's right. It's your actions.
It's your actions.
Yeah. And I think too, like a good perspective on this is because, I mean, I remember going to bed at night and I feel like all I did was say no all day long. And I remember talking to my mom about this and saying like, Mom, I feel so guilty. I lay my head on the pillow at night and I think all my kids are going to remember is me saying no. Yeah. One, that's not true. She said, do you remember that I did that? And I was like, I don't. And she's like, I did all the time. But you don't remember that.
That's true.
But it's not about, like, I think the perspective has to be that you're not, it isn't about like suppressing evil or suppressing these things that aren't good. It's actually about elevating good. So you're teaching them what is good, what is wise, what is right during this time. But because I think we can start to think like all I do is really say no to all these things. Yeah. But you're really just, you're elevating the good. Yeah. In them, you know? What are some things that you think that 5 to 12? Now that's a wide range. It's a wide range, and we'll talk about ages and age appropriateness. But like, what are some things kids struggle with at that time? Even like in the like discipline department and in parenting.
Behavior department.
What do they struggle with?
Gosh, I mean, it's such a wide range. I mean, you're talking about 5 years old who's brand new into school and brand new into structure, probably most of them. Then you're talking about all the way to kids who are going through puberty.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Preteen.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's like a major difference. I mean, I think you've got, 5, 6, 7. I mean, I think that they're learning from other kids who they're around.
Yeah.
I think that one thing you have to deal with the behavior of that age group is like, hey, we're a leader, not a follower.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I know your friend pushed, but you can't push. Or also, does your kid push? Is your kid the bully?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And both sides are so terrible.
And both sides.
Being on both sides, like either your kids
terrible,
or getting bullied,
or getting bullied,
terrible.
whatever.
Yes.
And so, like, I think
And we use that word
loose. Yeah, we're not being serious about necessarily the real bully situation, but yeah. And so, like, I think that you're teaching your kids a lot about. Okay, so me personally, when my kids start hitting kindergarten age, we're teaching them about making good choices.
Yeah.
When mom and dad are not around.
Yeah.
So what does that mean when I go to school? Okay, we're Southern. We told you guys this. We make our kids say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. That means you say that to your teachers. You be kind. You be respectful. You tell the truth. Be honest, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, be a good friend. You know, those are the things. Sharing. All these things you're teaching them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In that elementary people say a different age.
Yeah.
You know?
I think, a couple of things I thought of when you hit on those is one is lying.
Yeah.
I think lying is kind of a bigger, it's much by the way, if you're in this and you're like, my kid's a liar, they're going to always be a liar.
That's not true.
They're not.
No.
I went through a little phase of lying when I was
actually
younger.
I'm so glad that we have learned to confess this.
But some of my kids have been more like lied.
Susceptible to it than others, but they all
lied.
If you actually think, you know what, I'm proud of you if you're sitting here and you're admitting that your kid's a liar.
Yeah.
Because the ones who I'm more concerned about are the parents who think their kids don't lie.
Yes.
Now, again, you might have this sweet little kid who doesn't venture into that much.
Yeah.
The chance of them not lying to you at all, pretty slim.
Yeah.
They probably
they're
have
at least going to try it.
They're going to try it
Yes.
at some point,
Yes.
and it is devastating when they do.
Yes.
It really is,
Yeah.
especially if you think that that's just not
Yeah.
who they are.
Yes.
I had a kid who was amazing and lied to me, and I believed him, y'all.
Yeah, we all do.
And literally, it was a sad way to figure out that he was lying to me.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like, really?
Yeah.
And like, and that's when you learn, like, and we all have been there. We've all done it when we thought our kid wasn't lying.
Absolutely.
Again, doesn't mean your kid is a liar all the time. Doesn't mean they're going to say a liar. Doesn't mean that one time of lying that they're going to keep lying.
Yes.
I'm just making the point that don't think your kid's not going to lie.
That's right. And teaching honesty during this age period is really, really important.
Yeah, and just not thinking that they're never going to lie. That's where I think parents go wrong, is they think their kids are angels, and they think they don't ever do it. That's just not how they are. That's just not how they are. Guys, let's live in reality. These are little sinners walking around.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they're bad kids.
Yeah.
And there's different personalities.
Yeah.
But just live in reality that always have in the back of your mind that there might be some stretching of the truth happening sometimes.
Absolutely.
And that's the only way we can teach them.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
Is to know those things.
Yeah. And teaching honesty is huge, and I think all of these things is big on your relationship with your child.
Yeah.
Right? Your relationship has to be over the rules. When I say that, it doesn't mean there can't be any rules. That just means like you're constantly working on this relationship with your child. So you can teach them things about honesty.
Yeah.
You can teach them things about honor. I think honor is another one. Honoring authority. Huge thing to teach during this time.
Yes.
They obviously have to honor their parents because those are their parents and they're
And it starts in the home. It starts in the home.
But when they go to school or when they go to church or whatever they're going to, they have to start obeying authority and honoring authority.
Yes.
So that means teachers. That means police officers.
Yes.
That means adults in general.
And also, guys, just if you've never heard this, I'm going to just go ahead and tell you this is a great little thing to remember. Adults are not kids' friends.
That's correct.
The adults that are kids' friends are creepers.
Yes.
Okay? Not really, but that is the truth. You don't want an adult to be your kid's friend.
Well, and you're not their friends.
And you're not their friend.
Yeah.
Okay? So, like, here's the deal. I have had to teach my kids this. I find out that they're on the playground and they're sitting with their teachers. And I have had to say, no, ma'am.
Yeah.
They are not your friend. They are your authority.
Yes.
You can be you have a great relationship with them. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's like a mentor relationship.
Yeah.
It's not a, you're my friend, you're my buddy. Because here's what starts happening when we allow our kids to be friends with adults. They start talking to them like they are their friends.
Yes.
And that is disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you've ever heard that, but that is like been such a good revelation for me. And I don't even know where I heard it. But over all the years, you might have told me, I don't know. But it's teaching your kids to respect authority. So to understand that, and the best way I really did explain to my kids is, adults should never treat you like they're your buddy. Like friends.
Yeah.
If they do, there should be some cause for concern. I mean, not really, but in a way, you know?
Yeah.
So anyways.
But it goes both ways too. It's like your kids also don't need to be seeing adults like they're their friends.
No.
Because they're not.
No, exactly.
You know?
It's more that way for
Yeah.
us. It was more me teaching my kids.
Yeah.
You don't look at adults like they're your friends. They don't call my friends by their first names.
Right.
They say Miss, Mrs. Robin, Mrs. JJ, whatever it is. They
Yes.
don't do that because that is disrespectful. Because we are not going to talk to an authority figure like they're our friend.
Yeah.
So teachers, same thing.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I had to really teach my kids in elementary school.
Yeah. I think also just like honoring authority, like again, you need to be honoring authority in your household.
Yes.
So do you honor their dad? Do you honor God? Do you honor people of authority over you
Or
in
their mom.
front of them? Or
Yeah.
their mom, right?
Yeah.
Depending on what. Right. Like that honor is up and down and all around, and it's like, are we modeling?
Do we honor our own parents?
Yes,
Do
exactly.
we honor our kids' grandparents?
Yes.
You know, like, are we respectful of them?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So-
I totally agree with
And
that.
something that, and you know, Lindsay and I, we're going to talk about this a lot with our mom because we feel like she did a really great job, her and my dad. And I remember her saying this, that if your kid comes home from school or whatever and tells you something, not to always believe them,
Mhm.
that everything they're saying is true,
Mhm.
first of all, that you need to check with the teacher, those kind of things, because your kids will lie to you about situations, and then if you're all defensive without checking out the situation,
Yes.
it just, you can't I honestly am gonna side with the teacher unless I find something
Yeah.
different. The only time I don't do that is if it's something that is very uncharacteristic of the child I know.
Yes. I think that, okay, so going back to our Holy Spirit talk.
Yeah.
We need Holy Spirit to be very active
Yes.
in all the years, but we need him to be active about the lying,
Yeah.
to let us know if our kids are lying. That is
Yeah.
the only way that you guys are going to know, I'm telling you,
Yeah.
is to be asking the Holy Spirit to reveal things to us. We need to, our mom was so good at knowing when to take action with the teacher. And it was always right. But it was very
Rare. Mm-hmm.
So it was not often.
Yeah.
Did she have to take action with the teacher? Because she's like, nope, the teacher's in charge. Nope,
Yeah.
your authority doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It was like she always knew, my mom and dad always knew, you know what? I probably should take action. I think that we are so bad in the society these days of thinking our kids are always right.
Yeah.
And the authority is always wrong.
Yes. That's
And
right.
I'm like, bottom line is the authority is the authority. Are you going to go tell a police officer he's wrong for pulling your kid over when he's 16?
Yeah.
You're not. And if you do, it's not going to end well.
Yeah.
So why do we all of a sudden have the right to go and tell teachers and principals? And I have been on both sides of that, where I have reacted and found out that that's not actually what happened.
Yeah.
So I've been guilty of that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's been that my kids are lying, but sometimes it's just their perspective is not correct.
Oh, exactly.
A lot of times it's the perspective
yes.
is skewed. It's
Well,
one
immature.
and it's one side of
Yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah.
And so we just need to be careful with that whole thing.
Yeah. So
So-
lying is kind of something I think the kids can try during this time period. Whatever, lying, dishonesty, manipulating.
Yeah.
You're just smart.
Yeah.
Kids are smart.
Kids
okay?
are smart.
And also just really having a generation that just knows what honor is, I think is so important. And it's
Long term. It's a long term.
It's a long-term thing, and they are going to get so much farther in life if they
Yeah.
understand how to honor authority.
Yeah.
How to honor God, how to honor the parents, how to honor their teachers, their professors. I mean, people pick up on that in 2 seconds, and your kid's going to have a lot of favor
Yeah.
if they know how to honor.
And that has happened.
It
I
happens all the time.
have people tell me all the time how respectful one of my kids was, and I'm not bragging on them, because can I just tell you that when I get that compliment, it's a compliment to me
Yeah.
and Derek, because we've worked really hard
Yeah.
for
Yes.
X amount of years to get our kids to be respectful. Again, there has been many moments where they have not been.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
So another thing I think that kids struggle with in this time is kind of smart mouth.
Yes.
Now, teenagers for sure, I think we automatically jump into against teenagers. I actually think it's around 10-ish.
Yes.
So
Mom used to say the funniest thing about 10-year-olds.
Yes.
What did she say?
She would be like, 10-year-old is like a hard age because not only are they kind of getting more like, pre-teenish,
Yeah.
they also aren't cute at the time.
They're not cute.
Because
they're awkward.
They're awkward.
They're
at 10.
awkward, yeah.
She did.
And it's actually, it wasn't mean, it was funny.
Yeah.
And it's actually true.
Yeah.
It really is true. They're in this weird.
Yeah. So I do think 10 is a pivotal age. This is the age that Jeremy and I started taking our kids on their very first mission trip was at 10. 10 is around fourth or fifth grade, I think. And I would say more like fifth grade. It gets them out of their, they get a world perspective. I think up until 10, a lot of times, unless you just have just a different circumstances than most people, they only know what they know, which is like their home, their community, their church, their school, and where they live. Maybe they've traveled some places for fun and vacation. But I think 10 is the perfect age for a mission trip.
Yeah.
I think they can understand while they're there. They can take it all in. They can finally see that there's life outside of their life and that people go through different things. It causes them, it's a great time for them to start serving.
It's a great time for you to make them get out of their comfort zone.
Yes.
They're mature enough to get out of their comfort zone, but they're like immature enough to like, for it to sting a little bit, which is good, actually.
Yeah.
It's good for it to be like, ooh, which I have done the same thing. My two youngest have not been on a mission trip, but my oldest three have.
Yeah.
And so, I agree with that.
I think it's we've definitely not done everything right, and there are lots of failures. But taking them on a mission trip at 10 is a really great success, I feel like, for my kids and just seeing that difference in them. But that's what do you do for a smart mouth, for a sassy mouth,
Ashley taught us this little trick.
I mean,
I haven't done it.
From
I haven't done it in a really long time, but I threatened my kids with it recently.
Yeah.
I don't know who. They're probably glad I don't remember who it was.
We might get canceled for this. I don't know.
Yeah, we might get canceled, guys. It's okay. If that's the case, we're going to get canceled for a lot of things we say moving forward. We used to do what's called sassy spray.
Yes.
And it is apple cider vinegar, red wine vinegar, apple cider vinegar. You put it in a little bitty spray bottle, almost like a travel spray bottle. And we would do it for lying and bad words and talking back. And so it works, man, but it's not fun. Ashley and Jeremy had one child that was a little bit harder to discipline. And he pretty much took sassy spray and said, I like it.
Yeah. Like what you do is like essentially if they do any of those things, you spray this sassy spray in their mouth.
And you don't let them drink anything else for a minute.
It's not going to hurt them.
It doesn't hurt them.
But
it literally tastes terrible. And it works. It works. It works because at that age, it's like everybody disciplines different. Okay. So we don't necessarily have to go into that, but some things of ways you discipline when you're getting into 10 and 11 and 12, you kind of can't or don't really do anymore. And so this is a good way to
nip that in the bud.
Nip it in the bud. That's right. And I had it and literally labeled it with a label maker, and it said sassy spray, and it sat next to my sink, and it works really well. I will tell you. And some kids will try to spit it out. Some will try to not open their mouths. And just letting you know there's ways. Letting you know there are ways to get it in their mouths.
I think sometimes as our kids get bigger and older, we feel like we don't have any control over them. You know, and I'm not saying that sassy spray is the control.
No, but you have. It's just there's less ways to discipline.
There are,
honestly. There are
yeah.
less ways to discipline.
It's easier to not be intentional and just let it fly or let it get by.
But that gets worse. That's the problem.
Yeah.
This is what I just always think of. Okay, they're 10. What is it going to be like when they're 16?
Right.
And they have their own car.
Right.
And I'm telling them to come home, and they get on the phone, and they're like, I'm not coming home.
Yeah, exactly.
That's never happened to me, but I would lose my mind. But I'm saying, like, that stuff starts early.
Yeah.
If you don't nip it in the bud, it starts early.
Yeah.
And I just always try to think, like, down the line.
Yeah.
What do I want this to look like down the line?
Yeah. And again, let's go circle back. It's about that relationship, because when your child does something that is against what you've asked them to do, they kind of hurt the relationship. Truly, that is what it is.
Just you break some trust.
It breaks some trust. It breaks the relationship down a little bit, and it's our job as parents to circle back and mend that relationship, and for them too, which I think is important. Even how they apologize, like we tried to work on even during this time to not just say I'm sorry, but say like I apologize and this is why. Will you forgive me?
Yeah.
That's a much deeper, longer statement, and it has a meaning behind it than just saying I'm sorry.
Yeah, and teaching I think it's important, and this is one thing I probably didn't do as much with my older kids, but I kind of figured out later, is teaching your kids to be able to say what they've done wrong. Yeah. They don't have to like dwell on it.
No.
But just in the moment, and let me tell you why, because I don't want my kids to be like narcissistic when they're older and can't ever say that they've done something wrong. Like
when they're wrong.
Yeah.
Which means we have to do that too.
We do. Yeah. That's right. We
Yeah.
have to say when we're wrong. We have to live by example. But I do want my kids to be able to say like, hey, like I did lie.
Yeah.
And so one thing that I learned from Chris Hodges, Church of Highlands, loved it, have done it for years with parenting, and I've told other people this and they love it, is I will tell my kids in that moment, you're not a liar,
Yes.
but you chose to lie.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
not who you are,
Yes.
but that's what your choice
That
was.
goes back to speaking words.
It's speaking words. You're speaking words of life over them.
Yeah.
You're not mean girl.
Yeah.
But you're choosing to be mean right now. Like that's not who you are. That's not who God has created you to be.
Speaking to their identity.
They're
not saying you are this person, because there are people that their parents told them like you're stupid.
Yes. Yeah.
They have thought their
devastated
entire
them. Yeah.
life. Also adopted that as well. Like this isn't who you are, but you made this choice to do this thing.
That's right.
And then also when they apologize, when they say they're sorry, when they know what they did wrong and ask for forgiveness,
It's done.
It's done.
It's done. Yeah.
We're not going to linger in that. We're not going to keep on. The consequence and the punishment or whatever that is does not linger past that.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that Jesus is not like that with us.
Yeah. No.
We ask for forgiveness, repentance, and it's over.
And that is harder sometimes said than done. My personality is
But I want to be reminded of that as a parent.
do. No, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
But I'm just being very candid in the fact that I've been good at it some and not good at it some, and so it is something I need to work on still. But I don't let it linger, but like I have not always. Sometimes I'll go back and be like, well, there's a pattern or whatever. But the point is you're so right. It absolutely is done. Just like when,
Yeah. This is also a great time for our kids to learn how to be a good friend.
Absolutely.
To have friendships and how to choose friends. Kind of like and this will be an ongoing conversation past the time that they're 12 for sure, but it's a great time to start.
It is. And how much influence friends have on your kids, how much time do you allow them to invest in friendships? Because my personal opinion is they are too young to be around friends all the time.
Yes.
And we are either it's our area or it is the culture right now is kids are with their friends all the time.
Yeah.
From elementary school until they are in college. I don't know. I don't like that culture.
Yeah.
I don't think that is wise in my just personal opinion. If you've done that, that's great. It might have worked out for you. It's just for me personally, I want my kids with me as much as that can happen. And I think when they get in high school is when you can kind of start letting them do some more things. I'm not saying we don't let our kids do anything. I'm just saying they're with us more than they're not.
Yeah. I think too, this is a great time to talk about don't feel guilty for the decisions you make as a parent during this time period.
No.
I agree with Lindsey. I'm kind of the same way. I like to keep my kids kind of close to the vest for a little bit. Middle school, we start inching towards having a little bit more freedom with friends, and then high school and that kind of thing. And some of my kids have done better than others with this. But don't feel guilty if all the people you're around do something different than that.
That's right.
There's going to be time and time again where you have to come back to center and you have to say, okay, God, what do you want for my family? You and your husband need to decide on what works for your family, and this might be one of them.
Yeah.
The friend situation with your kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there is a lot of going with the culture, going with the society, or going with the friend group because the friend group does this. And that's not how this I mean, we already did our episode on unpopular opinions.
Yeah.
So obviously we encourage that a little bit, and I do think that this is like a big thing.
It is a big thing.
It's a big thing. I mean, one of my boys was in a group of friends, and I love their moms with them all the time. They are awesome, and they did a lot of spend the nights. But they were great because they knew our rule is no spend the nights, no sleepovers. And they did it, and we didn't. We stuck with, even though it was like his best buddies were all spending the night with each other, all these different weekends. It was just not something that we did. Yeah. And they still included Micah in things, and they were amazing. But my point is like, even if they had not included us, we would have stuck to what we were saying, and we would have just said, well, then they're just not the right friends for us, for Micah. Yeah. And so I just feel like you have to do what you feel is right for your family, and you cannot listen to the outside noise.
You can't.
You cannot.
Another thing I thought about during this time is that there's a lot of pressure, and this might be different areas where you live. I think in our area, there's a lot of pressure to volunteer at school as a parent.
Yes.
As a parent, husband and wife.
Where we live, it's a lot of husband and wife.
Yes, it's a lot of people volunteer at school, room mom, that kind of thing. And I think if that is you, that is amazing. I mean, I have friends. I have my sister-in-law who is an amazing, like honestly, like the best of the best. Here's what I'm saying though. If that is not you, it's okay.
It's okay.
And you can't feel guilty for not being that, because I will tell you, my sister-in-law is wired for it. She's so good at it. Her intentions are so amazing. She is awesome with the teachers and the kids and all that. And then there's other people who just aren't. Also, sometimes people have jobs, like moms have jobs and stuff, and I think we can just start feeling guilty. I feel like it's every stage that you feel guilty, and it's just different things, but it's okay. Your kids can have some separation from you by going to school. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I am a stay-at-home mom, ladies and gentlemen, and I never have been on a field trip with my kids. I didn't want to start it with my oldest because I had 4 kids in elementary school at one time.
Right.
So that my life would have been field trips. And I didn't want to start it with my oldest. It was not something I had interest in doing. And I didn't do it. None of my kids talk about the fact that I did not go on a field trip with them.
Right.
I did do some class parties I would help with.
Yeah.
I never, like, one year I volunteered at the school with a friend. That's it. Like, I would come in and do things here and there, but, like, I was never, like, a part of the PTA. I don't know which one it is. I never became a member of that. Like, I was okay with it. But one thing that Derek told my kids that I love to tell other moms is just for the ones that can't come.
Yes.
Or don't want to come.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm telling you this. So, there's like 1,000 holiday parties.
Yeah.
And you go to these holiday parties, and your kids are so happy you're there, but then they're off with their friends. You're just standing in a corner.
Yeah.
Now, if you know all the moms in that class, that's so fun. But if you don't, which for me, I had 5 kids, there's a lot of times I didn't know very many moms. And I was just standing there. And then I would leave there and have to go to another one. And so Derek finally looked at my kids and said, guys, Mom spends every one of these holidays with you at home. She makes them special. She gets you gifts. She does everything. Those holiday parties are not for Mom to be at. They're actually for you to spend that holiday with your friends and your teachers. Yeah. So if she does not want to come or cannot come, that is okay. And I was like, that is one of the best things you've ever said. Yeah. And it's true. So if that's not you, we are going to go ahead and tell you, take the guilt off. Yeah. Do not feel bad.
And
it's
okay. It's either way is fine. It's just like if you can't do it, there's no reason to feel guilty.
Yes, either way is fine, but don't feel guilty if you can't or don't want to.
That's exactly right.
That's okay.
Yeah. It's not a measure of
how good of a mom you are. It's not.
I don't think my mom stepped into
I don't remember
my
her.
school.
No, I don't remember her. Ever.
Maybe.
Ever. I never remember being there, and I was never damaged from it.
Yes.
I never cared.
Yeah.
I don't remember elementary school. Like, I don't remember any like that at all. It didn't bother me. Yeah. So I get it. Your kids are so excited that you're there, but you don't have to be at all.
Sometimes I feel like my kids didn't even care.
Yeah, that's true too.
They'd be like, "Oh, hey, Mom."
I know. That's so true.
Move on. Anyway, so drop the guilt. You don't need it.
That's
it's okay. You're still a great mom.
That's right.
Or dad, even if you don't do all the school things. I love this, and we pray this over our kids, and Luke 2:52, you know, that it talks about, it was talking about Jesus, as Jesus would grow in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. And we pray that over our own kids, that they would grow in that same way. And so I think this is an important time to even take some things, and this is based on a Church of the Highlands curriculum. I didn't come up with this, but it is the word, and I think it's important for this time period of your kid's life and as they grow. But one, that grow in wisdom is that you're guarding their minds.
Yeah.
So you're very intentional about what they're watching, what they're seeing, who they're around, who their influences are.
Yes.
You know, at this time.
Yes.
Where you do have more control, if you want to call it, about what goes in their minds, and to guard them, and then for them to have wisdom in that. You're shaping their character. So they're growing in stature, and you are there to also shape their character during this time. You know, what we talked about earlier, teaching them about honesty and honor and all of those kind of things. And the reason why.
And what God says about those things.
Right.
I mean, ultimately, we're not just telling them like just our opinion on those things. We're telling them what God is saying. Like, what is the scripture saying about these things, you know?
And then they would have favor with man. I think sometimes we talk about this, like, as the parent, you have the opportunity that, I don't know how to say this, like where people will have favor with your kids, and your kids will have favor with people. But you're there to teach them that. So if your kids are unaware about something, it is your job as the parent to step in and show them awareness.
That's right.
And I think this is a big one.
I think that is a big one.
You know, like if we want our kids to have favor, we teach them manners, we teach them to be honored, but there's other things too. How close does your kid talk to someone?
So that's the thing.
You know,
I think that people feel bad. They feel so bad. I'm like, you don't know what you need to feel bad about. Is it 17? They have no friends because they talk so close to people, people uncomfortable. You know, like,
or
let's
they
talk
interrupt, or you know, there's these little things that I think we can teach our kids, and it gives them favor with other people.
It's so true.
But it's your job as the parent to teach them, and what a great time from a 5 to 12-year-old to teach them.
Yeah, you're almost teaching them like, obviously 5 is different than 12, but like how to read a room.
Oh yeah.
How to not dominate a conversation.
It's that, like a social and emotional
social.
IQ.
It is.
It's not. Yes.
You know, also back to the fact that adults and kids should not be friends. Your kids do not need to be interrupting you every 5 seconds.
Right.
Hey, guess what? They can learn that at the age of 4.
Yes. We did a big thing we always did is if your kid needs to talk to you, and this always happened with us at church a lot because we talk forever after church. Yeah. They come up to you, they put their hand on your shoulder. They don't say a word. Yeah. You know that they need to talk to you, but they're waiting on you to say, excuse me, what do you need? You know, can I help you or whatever? And they're just little things like that. And even the other day, I mean, Grayson is almost 18.
That's funny because I have a story too.
He did that just the other day, and my friend was like, I think your son wants to talk to you, but Grayson's just standing there with his hand on my shoulder because he knew. Now, my kids have not always done this perfectly by any means or stretch of the imagination.
Well, literally on Sunday, we get home and Derek goes, hey, to one of my kids, why were you just standing there hovering while I was talking to so-and-so? Yeah. And they were like, oh, I didn't even realize. And Derek's like, it just makes it awkward. And then the person talking to me feels bad.
Yes,
even
happens too.
Even though we're beyond the age of like, mom. Yeah. Like we're beyond that age. That also has to be taught.
Yes.
But we're beyond that. But it's like standing there. My kids will do that. Yeah. They'll come up and just stand and wait. And I'm like, the adult knows that I'm talking to. So now I'll just look and I'll be like, I'll be with you in a minute. You need to go. I tell my kids to leave. Yes. I literally tell my kids to leave. And I know people probably think that to me, but I'm like, no, it's not. It's teaching your kids.
And if you have like a 10, 11, even 12-year-old, especially girls, the hovering
is real.
It's I mean, and it's okay to be like, you know what, we're having an adult conversation. You need to go somewhere.
That's right.
And I know that's not.
It's true. But also, it's the same thing that when you are with your adult friends because this preteen transitioning into like getting older, they don't want to be with the younger kids.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say some of you might have a child that's older, but your family friends have younger kids.
Yeah.
And the older one doesn't know what to do. They're kind of floundering.
Yes.
Then they want to hang out with the adults.
Yes.
Guys, that can't happen.
Yeah.
Your friends are going to stop having you over.
That's right.
Because you can't have conversations.
Freely, yeah.
It's not, so like you have to, it's okay to like include them for a second.
Yes.
And then you're like, hey, and when those, what the best way to handle that is it's going to happen. It has happened with every one of my kids at that age, that 10, it's usually 10. That's why my mom said the 10 is like kind of an annoying age. It's going to happen around that 10-year-old age. It is your job as a parent, once you start noticing it, before you're somewhere and you're in the car, hey,
Let's set them up for success.
You set them up for success.
Yes.
I know that you want to have a conversation. I know you don't enjoy hanging out with younger kids, but we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
You're not going to hover. You're not going to be in mom and dad's conversation with so-and-so. You're going to go do something. You can go hang out with the little kids. You can bring a ball, go kick a ball, whatever that is. But you are not going to be in our conversations. Yeah. Guys, there's nothing wrong with that. It's teaching them it's teaching them who they are.
Yeah.
It's teaching them like where your authority is. Okay,
Yes.
your authority lies in a 10-year-old. Not you don't get what I get.
Yeah, that's right.
And they need to know that. And the people who let their kids always sit at the adult table, I'm gonna go ahead and just let you know something. People talking about you with Is it not true?
No, and I do think it is. It's
I'm not saying there's not certain situations where that can happen,
absolutely.
and it's fine. But if you are always allowing that, people are annoying.
Yes. And it's keeping the big picture in mind. I mean, some of your kids don't need to be around those adult conversations, and it's not that they're talking about anything bad.
No, it's just it's their season of life, and it's just like the people who think that their kids. This is a big one, and we've got to wrap this up soon.
Yeah.
In kids' church, should go to middle school, worship experience, whatever you want to call that, as a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
No, they should not. Well, no, but you don't understand because all the kids in kids' church are all younger than them. Then you know what? Go talk to the kids pastor maybe about making them a leader. Or what is their behavior like? Is it good? Because if it is, maybe they can earn some things. No.
Yeah.
Do not ask if they can go to graduate to something that is not in their age range.
Yeah.
Don't be that parent. Guys, there's a reason why your kids can't drive till they're 16. There's a reason why you can't do things till you're 21. There's a reason why you don't go to elementary school until you're 5.
Yeah. There's privileges that happen in seasons of growing up that are important, and it's important for the parent also to recognize that. And that is an honoring authority thing too.
That's exactly what, as the parent. It's honoring the authority of whoever has set those rules.
Yes.
And I don't care if you think your kid is the smartest, most mature kid on this planet. If they are 10, they are still 10, and they are still in a 10-year-old body.
Yeah.
And they are still having 10-year-old hormones.
Yeah.
So they need to be where they are placed.
Yeah.
And I see this so often with parents, and I'm like, nope. Don't. Your kid doesn't need to be going to a young adult event if they're not a young adult.
Yeah.
There's reasons.
We want to have a lot of exceptions to the rules, and really, it's not. I mean,
you just
what
can't.
everyone else is doing. And
Yeah.
everyone else is.
And that's just called having respect and consideration and setting also the standard. If your friends are doing that, just set it right then. I'm not doing that. I feel like my kids
and there's
are
gonna be
good.
plenty of time for all of that.
That's right.
It's not
what
like
did
you're
you
saying
say?
no. It's not yet.
You said, several episodes ago, we introduce things to our kids too soon.
Yeah.
And then they have nothing to look forward to. How about
if everything is special, nothing is
special? How about in that year that you feel like they're too mature for kids' church, you talk up middle school?
Right.
Okay?
Yes.
You're like, we're going to use this next year to grow and learn. We're so excited about middle school, youth group that we get to be a part of.
Yeah.
And then they're going to have something to look forward to.
That's
But
right.
we got to quit trying so hard to take our kids out of the season they're in and the age they're in and fast forward them.
Yes.
And we just have to.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's not, you can't go into the DMV and ask if your kid can drive at 14 because you feel like they're ready to drive.
Yeah. It's true.
Don't worry, Derek tried to get a hardship license for our oldest, and he didn't really try. He looked it up, and guess what? It's very hard. You cannot do that.
Yeah.
So let's just keep it where it's at.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a good perspective. It's just good to stay there.
So we're guarding their minds. We're shaping their character. We're helping them have favor with man and favor with God. And I love this one because their purpose in life is linked with their relationship with God. And what an amazing time from 5 to 12-year-olds to teach them about a real life-giving relationship with God. A lot of your kids, if you're taking them to church and you're in your home, a lot of kids get saved during this time period, this age, because they understand a little bit more.
Yeah.
And their purpose and their identity, you're teaching them at this time is how God sees them.
Yeah.
It's what God's called them to. It's who they are, that they are his kids, you know. Ultimately, he loves them more even than we do. And what an amazing time for them to have favor with God and show them their purpose and their calling in life.
And this is again why we say it's so important for you as a parent to be pouring into them in this area, right? But then also to be parallel-ish, I guess, with bringing them to church.
Yeah.
And letting them get poured into what their purpose is from
identity,
multiple different,
their exposure.
Yes. Yeah. And so I think that that's another way that you can really help them see that, from different angles, not just from you.
Yes.
But I totally agree with that.
So I don't know. That's about it for this one.
Yeah.
I do have something that we did not talk about, but I think actually could be a whole episode is when we talked about sex with your kids. How old are they?
Yes.
So we'll save that for another time.
Yes.
Because we don't have enough time for that today.
Yeah.
But I think you have the question of the week.
I do have a question of the week, and I totally forgot that it was mine. We've recorded a lot of episodes in a short amount of time because of traveling.
Yeah.
And so my brain is like not in the right place. But how about I'll ask this question?
Okay.
This is like random and it doesn't really matter, but it's just kind of interesting.
There are no rules to the question.
There's no rules to the question.
Yeah.
So this is not really going to be like whatever. Okay, so what is one thing that you absolutely have to bring on vacation for spring break? Or you can even say every time you go somewhere. Is there something consistently that you always have to bring?
I always bring my white noise machine.
Yeah, that's true. We sleep with white noise. Like our house is so loud.
The other thing is
Ashley's white noise machine is the loudest one I've ever heard in my life.
I absolutely love it. Okay, I don't need to hear a thing. Also, I have to bring my retainer. I can't sleep without a retainer.
Oh really?
Oh, no way.
Oh, that's funny.
No way. I've had braces twice.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't even joke around when it comes to the retainer.
I did not have braces twice. But I learned to, I had my retainer for years. And I don't have a retainer.
What's yours?
So yeah, I definitely have to have white noise, but that's on my iPad usually when I travel. Let me think. I like to always bring, gosh, I'm like a big packer. I like to always bring some sort of like medicine bag, even though like,
you are very prepared when it comes to the medicine situation.
I am.
Which
So
is great. Because when I travel with Lindsay, I don't even think about it. So I'm like, she's going to have it.
Even though I like pray we never have to use it, and not often have we had to use it, but I always have like Zofran, like anti-nausea medicine. I always have like cold medicine, just certain things, which is stupid because you can almost always go buy stuff like that out, but like I just like to always have it, which is weird because you would think I'm very fearful over stuff, but I'm really not. So
you're just prepared.
Anyways, I'm just prepared. I just like to have it. There's nothing worse than like traveling and being sick.
Yeah, for sure. There is.
Because you just don't have it. So anyways, that's mine. Nothing too. Sorry, I forgot. And guys, sorry if it's been a little loud today. I'm also cooking. If you look in the background, you can see my stuff that I need to throw in the oven. But this is part of being a mom.
It is.
We're podcasters and we're moms.
It's reality. Yeah.
Life doesn't stop because of the podcast.
No, it doesn't.
All right, y'all have a good week, and we'll chat later. Bye.